Watcher 215. Watcher, is that what we call you?
Yes. Hello, Seth. How are you?
I
Can you hear me?
am incredibly good, actually, considering I'm about to be struck by lightning as the gods unleash their wrath above me, the godless mortal below. What's on your mind? You're on the air with Austin and myself.
No, I just got love for you. Uh, Austin, right? The other guy's name's Austin.
The
Yeah,
other
what's up?
guy is Austin. Yeah.
Hey, man. I was glad to hear. I heard that when you were younger, you worked in the hospice care, and I didn't know that about you. I heard you before. I'd seen you and heard you before. I don't remember if we may have talked before. I'm not sure, but I commend you for that and your outlook on. You were sharing how you being useful and pragmatic and helping other people was a way that you kind of live your life. And I really want to commend you for that because, yeah, Seth, I worked at the John 316 mission in Tulsa for like 10 years. So that's
Wow.
where I would hear you on the air, your golden voice on the airwaves. And that's kind of my relationship with you. You were kind of like part of the background of my life for a good portion of my life while I was
This
in
must have
Tulsa.
been in the 1990s when I was a Christian radio host.
Exactly, KXOJ, when you're on KXOJ.
Yeah. We played Amy Grant,
Yeah.
Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith, Whiteheart, Third Day, etc.
Do you ever revisit any of those? I mean, in your atheist life now, do you ever listen to any of that music anymore now?
I don't. I don't seek out Christian music. I don't enjoy Christian music in that way, with the exception of maybe a few Christmas carols. I've separated the mythology from them, and I just enjoy sort of the spirit of the song, if you will. But it's hard for me to go back and really enjoy Christian music because I saw how much of the industry was a business. I saw how many of the artists, and many were wonderful and sincere believers who wanted to do good things, and they deserve full credit, But there were others who were just business people, or they were all burnouts, and I'm fully aware that the Christianity that those songs are selling is debunked mythology, often very damaging mythology, and it's how do I enjoy that? How do I listen to that? But are there tunes that come on that take me back to a certain memory or a time in my life? I mean, if Petra's Not of This World album came on and they played, I'd probably listen to the whole damn thing, just because it recalls a certain moment in my life. It's a nostalgic exercise. I don't know. But no, I don't seek out Christian music at all.
Yeah, I feel the same way about that album as well, and I revisit it quite often. How about, did you have any interaction with John 316 Mission with their outreach in Tulsa? I can't remember. I don't remember you ever visiting the mission.
No, we didn't. I didn't have any direct interaction with the mission. No, you took in what people who were homeless or disadvantaged, gave them shelter, food, etc.?
Correct. Yeah, that's what we did. And
when people came in to receive shelter and food, pardon me, when people came in to receive shelter and food or whatever, was there a prerequisite that they had to listen to a sermon or something, or were they just given aid?
Yes, sir. They a half hour before the actual meal was served. There was usually a message given for about a half an hour.
Okay, so somebody walks in and they're hungry and they need shelter, and you're like, we'll give you food and shelter after we preach to you for 30 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like that is a moral way to approach people in need?
Well, Christ fed people, but he also gave them his word. And later, he kind of was scolding people for chasing him for the bread as opposed to the word that he was given.
Hang on. So if someone comes in who is hungry and needs shelter, and you are essentially holding hostage the needs that they have, or a way to meet the need that they have until they listen to a 30-minute sermon, is that the moral thing to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is moral because we're given a priority to the words that are being given, which is feeding the spiritual needs of the inner man. And
Okay,
then
hang on.
we minister to the outer needs of the man with the
would
meal.
it not make more sense?
We're given a priority.
Would it not make more sense?
Priority.
Would it not make more sense to feed the physical body and meet their physical need first, and then give them the option to stay voluntarily to hear whatever you had to say?
Yeah, that's another way of thinking of. I think that's a natural way.
It sure is. It's another way of thinking about it. Would that not be then the better way, where you're not saying, I have a solution to your problem. I'm going to keep it over here until you listen to 30 minutes of whatever? Wouldn't it be better to say, welcome, you have a need. Let me meet that need. By the way, you're welcome to stay and listen to the things we have to tell you. Wouldn't that be a better way to do it?
It seems like a better way when you think about it naturally.
Yes, it does seem like a better way when we think about it naturally.
There's more than one way to think about things. Like there's a natural way, and then there's also a spiritual insight as well. But many people don't have insight into the spiritual, which is why we prioritize the spiritual and try to get people to focus on the spiritual. We're not neglecting the natural, because the natural is definitely important and people are hurting. So
Austin, I'm not locking you out. I'm almost done. Austin, I'm almost done. Forgive me. Please indulge me.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Somebody walks in. I walk in. I'm shivering. I'm starving.
Hey, what's up there, Seth? How you doing, Seth?
I walk in. I'm shivering and starving. I have an immediate need. Some might say I'm suffering. Why would the immediate priority not be the immediate need? And how the hell am I supposed to focus on a message about my eternal soul if I am freezing and starving?
Okay, in that scenario you just presented, I'm almost imagining it in my mind. We in the front of the mission, we had a lot of donations that came in. A lot of times it'd be a coat or blanket. First thing I would do when you come in, is if you were shivering and starving, or like you said, is I would attend to that need that you're talking about, that immediate need that you're talking about. I'd probably give you a coat, I'd give you a blanket, I'd get you warm, and then you would go through the process, because there is a process going into the mission. So that's how I would respond to what you're presenting to me. Yeah, we do. I mean, we're not going to just ignore somebody that has an immediate need like that. But at the same time, my point is that because we follow Christ, we're prioritizing
I got
something that we feel
I'm tracking.
is very, very
It reminds
important.
me of, there was a program at a church downtown. They would send a school bus around to impoverished neighborhoods. And they would say, hey, parents, if you want to dress your kids up and put them out here at the front, our bus will pick them up. We'll take them to church. The parents said, wonderful. They brought the kids into the church, and they said, over here, look, we have lunch. We have pizza, and we have candy, and we have soda. And you can have all this delicious lunch after you attend our 1 hour church service. And I find this a deeply immoral thing. I think if they're hungry children, you feed the hungry children. Austin, would you like to jump in with anything at this time?
All I'm going to add there, Jeffrey, is that you just said it yourself. You said, because we follow Christ. You gave the answer. You said, well, we normally would just attend to the most pressing need, but because we follow Christ, we prioritize the spiritual need. And that is the problem, Jeffrey, is because of your religious or spiritual convictions, you are going about the attending to people with great needs in a really predatory way and in a backwards way, in a way where it's not really about serving their needs so much as it is about gaining converts to your specific ideology. And that's a problem, because the good thing that you're trying to do has strings attached to it. The thing that you're actually trying to do is just get people to be on your ideological team and to join your ideological tribe. You're not actually just prioritizing trying to help people. You're trying to bolster your own cause. And you said it. You said it's because we follow Christ that we do it this way. And I wish that you would do
there's
that same
another
work
reason.
for an Okay.
There's
What's the
another
other reason?
reason. For 10 years, like I was telling Seth, for 10 years, I worked at that mission. And I found that not only was there a natural or outer man need, so many natural needs that we tried to minister to, but that there was also a spiritual need that these people have. That's what I observed as in my interaction with these people. And I realized that Christ actually had the answer in his teachings and his words were answers to many of these needs that they had. And I was able to minister as I was doing one, I was prioritizing the other and not neglecting the other. I was putting them both together. I was giving value to both, but really prioritizing the spiritual part, because I found that was at the root of many of the wrecked lives that we saw come through those doors for over 10 years. But I really commend you. I really was interested in what you were saying. I thought that what you said about how you live your life is very, very, I remember Jesus met one man. He said, you're very close to the kingdom of God. And I almost feel like he would say that to you just by the virtue of the fact of how you are living your life right now. And that's not to be, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm giving you props and not to ingratiate myself to you, but I really recognize what you said. I had never heard, before I got on, I was kind of heard that as I was setting myself up to, with my headphones and stuff. But anyway, I love to see Seth. Every time I see Seth, I remember those days and my time back in Tulsa and that golden voice he had. I am ingratiating myself to Seth because I'm a fan of his. But anyway, all being said, I appreciate interacting with you guys on today.
Hey, I get it, Jeffrey. I think that you seem to be a person who genuinely does want to help people and genuinely does want to be of service in the world. I think that comes from a place that I believe is genuine, that it's not just a manipulative desire to exclusively get converts for your specific ideology. I would just say it sounds like your ideology is just kind of getting in the way of the purity of what it is you want to do and the kind of person you want to be. I appreciate the feedback, though, and that's my thoughts. I don't know if Seth has any other final parting thoughts.
I do not. Thanks for calling the show. We'll see you later.
All right. Shalom, fellas. Bye.
I'm just not convinced of the sincerity of this person. I don't know. I hear riffs on, well, you're such good people. You're actually better Christians than many Christians I know. I'm sure you've heard this one. For atheists, you're actually better Christians than a lot of, I hear a riff on that. But there's something performative about what we just heard that I find a little bit troubling. And you really hit it on the head. It's almost like a bait and switch. We're going to give you a goodie. Come in here. And then at a point where you may be vulnerable or in great need, we have an ulterior motive. Even if you sincerely believe, and maybe he does sincerely believe that you need to be nourished spiritually as well as physically, and perhaps the spiritual is more important. To me, that's a bait and switch. It's a kind of a shaky and dishonest tactic for trying to get your message out. And if I really gave a shit, if somebody walked in and they were shivering and starving, the first thing I do is I wrap them in as many warm blankets and coats as I can get, and I say, "Here's some hot food." That's the best thing to do. And if they stay for the sermon or not, I mean, that's far from the fore of my mind at that time. I don't know.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that even that thing of like, I think that it's like that person believes that they're being sincere when they go, I think you guys are doing good things. It sounds like I commend you for the way you're living your life. But there's also tied to that, and I think you're absolutely right about this, there's this like salesmanship thing where it's like, I want to pay you a compliment so that you'll be open to what I'm saying, which is there's also a lot of value in this spiritual message that I'm peddling. And so it's a softening technique. It's an emotionally manipulative technique, even if there is some sincerity to it. It's, I mean, to a certain degree, it's sometimes a technique that I engage in on this side, where I try to pay a person a compliment if I like their response to, like, we were talking to a kid a couple weeks ago who he answered several questions. He said, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question, and I'll think more about that. And I said, that's a really good answer to that question. Said, I really appreciate your honesty. And sometimes, and I'm being sincere, I really do appreciate the honesty. And also, I'm trying to like lower that person's defenses and be like, hey, good on you for being willing to say you don't know the answer to a question. And that's what I get a little bit from that, is like, let me lower your defenses by complimenting you on how good of a job you're doing and what a good person you are. And now let me tell you what value there is in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And yeah, so it's not 100% sincere. It's not. Yeah.
I also hear a shade. It's funny. I had a guy, and he's just the nicest dude. He lived in my neighborhood. He was a lovely person. He was a worship pastor, and I mean, he was hardcore. The guy was just freaking hardcore. But he just loved Natalie and me, and we loved him and his family, and we'd watch check on each other's houses when we were traveling, and we always checked on each other if they needed anything, whatever. But there was he offered to drive me to the airport when I was going to speak at an atheist conference. He was just one of these guys, and I couldn't escape the feeling that he was like the cool Christian who surrounded himself with atheists. It's almost like when you are around somebody who is a person of white privilege and they say, well, I've got a black friend. So I just caught a little bit of that. Like, I'm such a hip Christian that I'm surrounded by people of different beliefs, including those who don't even believe in God. And I'm just loving unconditionally and that kind of thing. And I almost felt like I was a notch in his belt in a way. And I don't know if I was or not. I really took him at face value, but under the surface, I thought, well, is there a shade to that kind of thing where it's like, hey man, you atheist, we're all hanging together. Maybe that makes me a cooler Christian. I could be projecting, or that could be supposition. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. And I could be projecting too, but when I was, an active Christian, I lived that way. And the last talk I ever gave in my church growing up was, I mean, I loved speaking in church. I'm a yapper. I'm a born yapper, and I loved any opportunity to get in front of my community and speak. But I gave this talk about all of my different friends who were struggling with different things, and my friends who were atheists and my friends who were drug addicts and things like that. And then I kind of like admonished the congregation, my ward. I was like, and I bet all of you have some opinions in your head about me right now because I just said I told you about who my friends are. And I was like, but that's the problem with this church, is we need to be willing to befriend people who don't think like us. How else are we supposed to bring people to the message? And so I was admonishing them and kind of gloating about how I had this very worldly, diverse group of friends, but still the goal in me having that diverse group of friends was, this is our best chance to bring these people into the fold, is we need to be willing to be open to at least feigning friendship with them. And I actually had to apologize to a lot of my friends after I left the church and kind of come to an understanding that there were many aspects of my friendship with them that were not genuine and not sincere, that I was sort of playing this long game of trying to slowly get them over to my side rather than just accepting them as they are.
Hey, if you liked this video, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't
That's
like
where
it,
you would say,
subscribe.
Okay.
You didn't even give me a chance.
It was such a long pause.
What are you on speed or something? I barely had a chance.
Let's try again. Hey, I hope you liked. Hey, I hope you. Fuck. Hey there. I hope you liked that clip. Hey, I hope you liked that clipper just now, the one that you just watched with your eyes. If you did like it, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't like it, tell Jimmy to go fuck himself.
Hey, I hope you liked that clip right now. If you did like it, why don't you hit that like button?
And if you didn't like it, go ahead and subscribe anyway.